Okay, it's 3 o'clock, and certainly welcome everybody again for being a part of our second day of our budget hearing and our budget workshop. I want to start by saying thank you to everybody who's made this happen, all the staff who has worked so hard on this budget book. And Monday was great, very rewarding, and obviously very interesting, and a lot of information has been put forth, and we look forward to the rest of the departments today sharing their vision and their ideas and their needs with us. And Jim, just want to say again, thank you for your leadership and all the department heads and employees of the city who allow Auburn to run well and run good. And we're certainly thankful for that in these trying times that we're living in right now. So with that, Mr. Buston, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Council, we are going to continue with our department presentations. I understand that during our previous workshop, my microphone wasn't all that great and there was some static. Hopefully that has been corrected. I have a new piece of equipment that hopefully the audio and the video is coming across better than it did 2 days ago. With that, let's start off with Ms. Katrina Cook, and Katrina is the department head for environmental services. And Katrina, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Let's see. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Katrina Cook, Environmental Services Director. And before you have our management team here in Environmental Services. So I would like to just take a moment to introduce them to you because they're the ones that are on the front line doing everything that we need to have done each day. From your left to right, we have Kevin Callahan, our Division Manager of Fleet Services. And I get to tell you a little bit about each of our divisions as well. Fleet Services is a department that helps procure dependable and cost-effective equipment and furnish quality vehicle maintenance services for the city. Fleet Services has 10 employees with over 60 automotive service excellence certifications and over 115 years of service to the city. They manage the city's 700 various vehicles and equipment, including fire trucks, police cruisers, mowers, and garbage trucks. Next, we have Ivy Culver. Ivy leads our green waste division, which is trash and bulky yard debris. He manages 12 employees and just took on the task of trash amnesty and household hazardous waste day during our COVID-19 pandemic. Our trash amnesty period had the largest volume of materials collected, over 2,000 tons, and we had the most participation we've had since the program's inception. The same goes for our HHW day, which we had over 440 participants and over 20,000 pounds of material collected. Next, we have LaKen Reese. He's our division manager for solid waste and also our recycling commodities. So that's everything that's in a cart. So that's everything in your green cart and your blue cart. He manages 19 employees. In February, you guys might remember we had a feet on the street cart tagging recycling education campaign. It was a citywide initiative aimed to improve the quality of recycling materials in our blue carts. We asked residents to take a look at the things that they were doing, and we went around and tagged all the carts. So you guys might have gotten one or gotten some educational materials about what was going on in February. Next, we have Krista Weldon. Krista is our Animal Control Division Manager. She ensures the health and safety of our city Auburn residents and companion animals through the enforcement of dog-related ordinances and the promotion of pet safety and responsible pet ownership. Our animal controls officers have experience dealing with a variety of animals, including dogs, cats, farm animals, urban wildlife such as coyotes, foxes, and exotic animals. So we'll go to our next slide here, and I get to brag just a little bit more about some of the key accomplishments that we had.
Katrina, could I just interrupt a second? I forgot to tell the council that your tab in the book, in the budget book, starts on page 135.
Okay.
I forgot to tell them that. So I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
Oh, no problem, no problem. The city's combined acquisition value of vehicles and equipment is a little under 26 million. In collaboration with our Information Technology and Human Resource Department, we were able to install about 650 units of our AVL telematics and software solutions, better known as Samsara for us in the city. This created a unified fleet management system, which captures real-time visibility into onboard diagnostic data, vehicle and equipment safety and security, in-cab voice coaching, which is my favorite, and maintenance referrals, which helps lower vehicle costs and increase driver safety. We had a couple of mechanics to complete the installation, and this saved the city over $100,000. Our fleet division also received the Blue Seal of Excellence program from the Automotive Service Excellence. It's a non-profit organization. It's independent, and it promotes excellence in vehicle repair, service, and parts distribution. The Blue Seal of Excellence program acknowledges the best employees, supportive training, and the best equipment. Attaining this recognition meant that at least 75% of our mechanics performing diagnosis and repairs were certified in each of the areas that are covered. Early spring, you guys may remember, we implemented a new schedule, a new collection schedule. Our routes have grown, and we're managing internally with the number of collectors that we have. Recycling has grown from 34% to 88% as of today. And we're currently servicing over 16,000 customers, many of which have 2 carts for collection. With the new schedule, we moved 1 solid waste collector and a truck to recycling. There were 3,500 customers impacted by this new collection system. The shift in the collection system allowed us to absorb the growth that's happening on the north side of the city. As you know, most recently we received the results of the citizen survey, and I'm pleased to report that we had a 90% satisfaction rate as it relates to our curbside recycling program. With that, we were able to garner some additional funding from the Recycling Partnership. And we sent out informational mailers, cart tags, social media boosting, truck advertisement, and we also added a Recollect app to our webpage. This helped us in making sure that everyone had a place to go for questions they had. They didn't have to wait to call us. Since 2010, our recycling division has attained almost $1 million in grants. This has been a huge promotion for our recycling success. Our animal control division averages over 800 work orders per year and handles our animal welfare, dogs at large, and enforcement of the ordinance. They work closely with USDA wildlife personnel for various wildlife trapping. This year, they will host the conference of the Humane Society for the United States Illegal Animal Fighting Force. We have a close partnership with Lee County Humane Society. As you can see, Jim, I think, pointed you to the correct page. This year, our pro rata share is $209,334, and that's on page 138, which is a $12,700 decrease. Hopefully, we're starting to see some results of the SNP program instituted by the Lee County Humane Society and area governments, along with our promotion of pet ownership and best practices, as well as low-cost spay and neuter options that are available to various homeowners through vet services. Let's see. This next slide talks a little bit about our materials and service management. Allison mentioned on Monday that we have a solid waste enterprise fund that accounts for the city's solid waste and recycling functions. The fund is self-supporting with user charges. The current rate for collection, for curbside collection is $23.50 and backdoor service is $33.50. As a programmatic evaluation, a review of our rates will take place in the next biennium. Our operating revenues have increased an average of 5.2% over the past 5 years, and our expenses have increased an average of 5.6 over the past 5 years. Our customer to employee ratio, you can see there, is 15,964 to 31. We've maintained the same amount of collection personnel that we had in 2000. Technology with various equipment has made a difference. Moving to an automated system has allowed us to absorb the increase in customers. Megan spoke to you about the knuckle boom trucks in her capital projects presentation, or straight trucks, as I like to call them, that use one driver. Transitioning to this collection system will allow us to continue collections with the same amount of personnel, but we can get more stuff. The graph I'm sharing with you that you see there on your page is not in the book, but it just kind of shows you the garbage collection, the trash collection, the recycling collection, and the number of customers. You can see 2017 was a huge year in both garbage and trash, and that was also the year that China instituted a lot of changes in their recycling program. Luckily, it did not impact us. We've been able to move forward with some of the things that we're doing. And you can see the decrease now as you see a small uptick in our recycling that's there from 2017 to 2019. So my goal is to make sure that that gray line catches that blue line, and we're doing a lot more recycling than we are throwing in the garbage. Okay, and some of our key initiatives. We'll review the solid waste ordinance and recommend some revisions to it. Keep in mind that we will have best practices and standards that we will use in our profession. We'll continue our training initiatives with getting our mechanics and collectors abreast of the latest automotive engineering technological advances in the profession. We'll also ensure continued development of the department's education and outreach efforts, including Animal Care Week, Recycle Auburn, which I'm proud to say is in its 33rd year of inception. We started in 1987, first city municipality in the state of Alabama to start curbside recycling. And we'll continue to strive to increase our waste reduction and reuse efforts through our commitment of Keep Auburn Beautiful. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Katrina, I just think it's unbelievable how much y'all get done each and every day. And I've always just have admired your folks as they work through whatever kind of weather is outside, under whatever kind of traffic and situations that are going on. You guys always come to work each and every day, and I just appreciate it. And I appreciate your working with Keep Auburn Beautiful. That is a great organization that does a lot of great work in our community. The Hanging Baskets downtown is a personal favorite of mine, and thank you for your support and leadership with them.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
And Katrina, I also want to say that, you know, my hat goes off to your crew, because they do an excellent job. Even if they forget something, they're, you know, they always willing to come back and, you know, do what they need to do to make it right. And so, and I thank you for that service, and just, you know, just being involved in the community and doing the things that you and your crew, your employees do, and especially in Northwest Auburn, because I know there's times, you know, when people call and maybe sometimes they thinking that some things can't be done, but you always make it happen. So I just want to commend you for that. And I also want to commend your staff for the excellent work and their ability to make it right.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'll be sure to share those comments with our crews when we have our morning meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
Any other questions for Katrina? All right, thank you, Katrina. Appreciate it. I think one thing to note on Katrina's slide, and I think this is a testament not only to her staff, but to what the staff in general tries to do, is that from the year 2000 to now, they have kept the same number of staff in the collections division of that department, the 31 staff members. And I mean, that in and of itself, that one bullet point there, I think is kind of a testament especially to environmental services, but also to just how efficient we are with our employees. So we will now go on from environmental services to Mr. Chris Warren, who is our library director. As you all know, Chris has just a few more days with us. He is going off to I don't want to say a better place, but a bigger place. And we wish Chris well in his new job in the Dothan area. So Chris, take it away.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you all for this opportunity this afternoon to talk a little bit about the Auburn Public Library. With the time that I have here, we're going to provide just a brief overview of the library as a department. We'll also look at a few of some key performance metrics that we track, basically to make sure that we're being responsive and efficient and effective in how we serve our citizens. We'll also talk a little bit about the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, which is of course affecting everyone, but it's affecting libraries in a very particular way. And then finally, I'll talk a little bit about some of our initiatives for the next biennium. So the Auburn Public Library is divided into 4 areas based on function, based on the actual aspect of library services that they provide. The first and probably most visible piece of that is public services. Public services is responsible for all of the frontline customer service operations that we provide at the library. So that's everything from registering someone for a library card, to providing technology assistance, to helping people check out books or return books, to helping people with homework. In addition, there's materials management, which is responsible for selecting, ordering, processing, and making shelf ready all of the books, audiobooks, and DVDs that we have in our physical collection. Next, there's engagement and outreach, which is responsible for all of the library programs, activities, and outreach initiatives that we offer at the library. That includes everything from our story times to author visits to classroom outreach, and a number of partnerships that we have with Auburn University and the Auburn City Schools. And then finally, there's digital services, which is responsible for our ebook collection, our digital magazines, our databases, our online resources, and the library piece of the city website. There are a number of key metrics that we track in order to evaluate our own success, as well as to evaluate our efficiency and our effectiveness relative to our various peer and benchmark libraries. FY 2019 is the year for which we have the most data available, and so that's why I've presented this data here. In that year, our patrons borrowed over 471,000 items. Just to sort of provide a bit more information about that, that includes over 137,000 books for adults, over 239,000 books for children and teens, close to 60,000 audiobooks and DVDs, and then finally 35,000 or a little over 35,000 ebooks. It's worth noting that these numbers have about doubled from where they were about 5 years ago. People are definitely, and that's the result of us kind of taking some new approaches to how we build our collection, how we provide customer service, really trying to anticipate our patrons' needs and the interests of our community, and building a collection in various formats that is responsive to that. That same year, 2019, we had over 28,000 children, teens, and adults attend close to 1,000 library programs. That includes the 10 story times that we've offered each week, as well as a number of author visits and various outreach activities as well. And in addition, staff answered over 44,000 questions. And those could range anywhere from I'm doing a report about Belize and I need resources about that country, to I got a new Kindle and I need to learn how to use it, to questions about either whether general interest or any number of resources that we connect people with. And then finally, that year, we welcomed a little over 170,000 visitors, or as I like to think of it, twice the capacity of Jordan-Hare Stadium. It's a lot of people to have walk through your door in a 12-month period. And I often tell the staff when we are talking about these statistics, if you feel like you've been busy, it's because you have. And I'm really proud of the staff for working really hard to make these sorts of numbers a reality. Now, I'll talk a little bit next about the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. I had mentioned, if you feel busy, it's because you have been. COVID-19 has, of course, impacted organizations and agencies community-wide and statewide and nationwide. It's of course impacted how we provide library service as well. But what's been really interesting is that we're still seeing people use the library. When you consider that our business model is built on people sharing things, whether those are books or public computers or public spaces, we've really made an effort to adapt to that, to this current crisis, and still deliver library services in really effective and meaningful ways. I pulled out a few statistics for the current year, and I wanted to compare them to the previous year. One of the things we realized we could do in order to still provide library service was to invest more in our ebook collection, because that's something you can access regardless of where you are. So if you're self-isolating, if you're quarantining, if you're working from home, you can still download those books from home. So if we look at March through July of 2020, so that's this year, our patrons downloaded 38,721 ebooks. That's up from 15,000 that same time period the year before. So that's more than double. And it's worth pointing out, on the previous slide, I mentioned that our patrons borrowed 35,000 ebooks for all of 2019. So just in that span from March through July, we saw more ebook activity than we did for all of the previous year. In addition, we started modeling what some other businesses have been doing, including curbside pickup, which we implemented a couple of months ago. All of the activity for that goes through items that people have put on hold. So if you're picking up items by curbside, they're items that have been put on hold. And it's worth noting that just looking at last month, we filled 5,240 holds relative to last year. We only did 1,845 in July of 2019. So that's almost triple the activity as well. And then finally, we've adapted a lot of our in-person programs to various online formats. Those include our at-home read-along, our summer learning challenge, and our Creative Bug Instagram challenge. I'm particularly proud of the at-home read-along because that was a program that our engagement and outreach staff developed that encouraged people to track their time spent reading at home. And if they reached a particular reading goal, then they would be entered into a drawing for a gift card to a local business. That was also the same case with our summer learning challenge. All of the prizes that went along with that were gift cards for local businesses. So we really kind of tried to basically complete this loop of encouraging people to stay at home if they can, trying to connect people with library services while they're at home, while also supporting our local economy. So it really checked a lot of boxes in terms of how the COVID-19 pandemic is affecting our community at large. Looking ahead to the next biennium, we have a number of initiatives that we're going to be focusing on, all of which are informed by our strategic plan. For purposes of our budget presentation, there are three that we wanted to highlight that we think touch on some of the highest priorities for us. The first thing that we want to do is expand our digital, legal, and small business resource collection. This, to be clear, this does not take the place of a lawyer or a financial advisor or anything like that. But if somebody needed access to, say, a quick legal form, or they needed access to a sample business plan, then those are resources that we can make available through some of our online resource vendors, and people could access them through the library website with their library card. In addition, we want to develop a plan for serving patrons who are homebound, as well as patrons with limited mobility. We're not sure exactly what this will look like, but we're pretty sure that it will resemble some of the books by mail programs that you see at other libraries. It's something that obviously also falls in line a little bit with the pandemic. If we're trying to encourage people to stay home, particularly vulnerable populations, this is a way for us to continue providing library service to those individuals without them actually having to come into the library. And then finally, we want to produce some kind of introductory promotional materials, both digital and in print, for new users. We do a really good job of attracting people to first sign up for a library card, and they may use it that one day, or they may use it to download ebooks at one time, but then sometimes we don't necessarily see them come back. We want to be able, once we've got them hooked, we want to make sure that they're aware of all the resources that we have available so that they'll continue to be library users in the future. We've got a lot to offer. I think one of the most common things I hear when I tell people about all the things that we have at the library, one of the most common things I hear is, well, I didn't know that you all had that. We kind of want to head that question off. We want to make sure people really are aware of everything that we have, and so that they'll have a reason to be a recurring customer. One of the key metrics that we track is actually the percent of all of our borrowers who are active in a given month, and we want to see that percentage go up. So that's a little bit about what we'll be focusing on in the next biennium. I really also want to take a quick moment to applaud the library staff who helped develop this strategic plan, as well as who helped develop a number of the resources and services that we've adapted given the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm really proud to work with folks who are as creative and resourceful and dedicated as the library staff here. And as I move on, that is one of the things that I will certainly miss. If any of y'all have any questions or anything, I'm happy to help answer them.
Chris, thanks for all your good work, man. Good luck to you in Southeast Alabama. And Dothans should be excited about having you come to their town.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you.
Chris,
Any questions? Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of echo the mayor too. I want to thank you for always letting me host my ward meetings there, and always have the facility there always warm and welcoming, and it's been a fantastic friendship. And thank you for all your hard work for the folks that came to the library and for the city.
Of course. Thank you, Brett.
Anything else for Chris?
Best of luck to you, Chris. Enjoyed also being able to have access to the library for various meetings, and you always went the extra mile for me, and I really appreciate it, and I wish you the best.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Chris. We are going to move on now to environmental services, which you can find on page, not environmental service, public works, which you can find on page 127. So Mr. Tim Woody, our Director of Public Works, will take it from here.
Okay, good afternoon, guys. Thanks, Jim. I'm just making sure I have control of the screen. Okay. All right. As Jim said, I'm Tim Woody, and I'd like to introduce my staff to you. Brandon Foshee is in charge of maintenance. Chris Powell is in charge of our construction division. Dan Ballard is in charge of our landscape sustainability division. Joey Brooks in charge of facilities, and Mike Marshall in charge of right-of-way. And I wasn't as smart as Katrina to put photos of those guys up there. As far as an overview, I'll briefly talk about our key accomplishments, kind of show you what our service request numbers were for the previous fiscal year as compared to this year as well. Show you a few completed projects that we did, talk a little bit about our project operations, and then we'll move into our key initiatives for the next biennium. Right-of-way maintenance division, in case you're not aware, is responsible for downtown maintenance, litter, sweeping, and all forms of vegetation maintenance. And in 2019, we collected 12,610 bags of litter from over almost 5,000 miles of right-of-way. And in doing so, we use community service workers as well as inmates. You may have noticed an uptick a little bit in terms of the volume of litter that you see on the streets, and that's because Sheriff Jay Jones would not let the inmates out, and obviously because of COVID. And when the university closed and the students went away, we didn't have as many community service workers. And Judge McLaughlin made a note of that on Monday when he was telling you about how the caseload had dropped. And I looked back at it, we had an 85% drop in the number of community service workers that we had to help us to collect litter. But we'll find a way to make sure we continue to do that. That number is starting to move back up now as the students have come back to town. It's a bad thing for them, but it does help us and help the community to have that help. When looking at the number of bags that we collected, that averages to about 1,050 per month. And the mileage is about 412 miles per month. And in our sweeping activities in 2019, it was almost 8,500 tons of debris that was collected. Facilities maintenance division is responsible for building maintenance and improvements, building condition and efficiency assessments, and the management of service contracts, and two in particular, the fuel dispensing contracts that we have for our 3 fuel depots, and all janitorial services except parks and recreation, they handle their own. Some key accomplishments by facilities. We did some ADA improvements at City Hall, in the restrooms and in the stairwells with the railings. We've been doing some upgrading of the lighting in some facilities and changing those over to LED, like in conference rooms and even some offices. And that helps in the long run in terms of with power use. And I want to highlight a little bit about the COVID-19 response. We were primarily responsible for dealing with a lot of that in terms of the facilities. So our folks are the ones kind of installed the plexiglass installation at the various facilities. And sorry about that. And also enhanced disinfection activities. You might remember Joey coming to city council meetings the first couple of times before we went to Zoom during those meetings. He was the one there wiping the microphones. And we are working to deploy the Clorox 360 electrostatic sprayers that the hospital and schools are using. And that's a photo that you see there of kind of how that works. You could go into that room within 5 minutes of that spray. Again, it's electrostatic, and it goes under the desk, under the chairs, the legs, all of that to help disinfect it. So we think it's a very effective way to help us deal with that. The maintenance division is responsible for asphalt maintenance, potholes, crack sealing, things of that nature. The drainage and storm sewer system, any maintenance and repair needs there. Traffic calming installation, so any of your traffic humps and things of that nature, and they support other activities of the department. Some key accomplishments for that division, we crack sealed 9 miles of roadway last year, patched 122 potholes, and keep in mind it's just simple potholes, not where we had to go in and repair large holes and like dig up and do repairs to storm sewer. And then we did a number of drainage ditch improvements, and that photo to your left right there is one that we did in the neighborhood. And you can see it looks kind of elaborate, but it really works in terms of having the rock there and what have you to make it flow better. Construction division, they're responsible for sidewalk construction, ADA compliance, trip hazards, things of that nature, curb and gutter repair, and storm sewer inlet repairs. And that's what you see in that photo is an inlet repair. And some key accomplishments for construction is they poured 302 yards of concrete. So that comes out to almost 5,000 feet of concrete. And of that amount, 124 yards or 2,000 feet was for ADA compliance. And the remaining 178 yards or 2,900 feet was normal sidewalks, curb and gutter, storm drain inlets. Landscape and sustainability division kind of has some divisions within the division. Beautification being one of those. So that beautification was responsible for all the landscape, integrated mosquito control, and we also work closely with the Auburn Beautification Council. Key accomplishments, we did some recovery of some of the facilities. In other words, we nurtured the grass and made the grass be in a little bit better shape than it had been previously, like at the Veterans Memorial and some other places, the library. Expansion of holiday decorations, we expanded the area that was covered. We went a little further out Gay, went up Opelika Road, had more lit garland that we've had in the past. And also we did some wildflower plots. I don't know if you guys seen them. We had one down here by the recycling drop-off center that really flourished. We had one at H.C. Morgan Water Treatment Plant, and then another one on East Glen, kind of at the end of the runway as you come around the curve there on Glen. Urban forestry, obviously the inventory and assess the city's tree assets, recommends any pruning and removals that need to be done, and also serves as a liaison to the Auburn Tree Commission. Some key accomplishments, over 3,000 tree inspections, almost 130 homeowner calls, 63 trees removed, 234 trees planted, and 86 volunteer hours. I just kind of wanted to point out, I'm sure you guys remember, we did some removal of invasive species at Town Creek, and that was included in those volunteer hours. Landscape sustainability, in terms of the sustainability program, evaluates city plans and projects, kind of look for things that can be improved, like environmental and economic from that perspective. Also supports the Green Infrastructure Master Plan. And we also engage with Auburn University's Office of Sustainability to look for opportunities to partner together. Some of the key accomplishments on sustainability was coordination between Public Works and Water Resource Management on street sweeping, leaf composting program. I think this program's been in place now almost 2 years out at the Northside Treatment Plant. So like the street sweeper will take some of the material out there, and then worm employees will turn the material over and make it to a composting program that we'll use on projects. And also the Veggie Trails installation at Barkin, I'm about to highlight that. Some of the completed projects, there were a number, we just decided to highlight these. Outdoor classroom at the library. Chris had a photo of that when he did his presentation with the pollinator garden and the seating arrangement. The Pleasant Avenue sidewalk project. And along with that project, we did some tree installations. So that really helps in terms of having a key pedestrian way from Foster back over to Sugar. Roofing and waterproofing projects, we did that at Jan Dempsey, Dean Road, and the library in conjunction with Becky and her people. And the Veggie Trails at Boykin. And it's almost 300 pounds of produce harvested since April. And you can see some of it in that photo. Some very nice produce for the seniors and for the daycare centers that are there. Service requests. Kind of briefly, in 2019, we had 1,211. Through July of this year, we have 1,172. So that averages out to about 101 a month in 2019. And that's ticked up a little bit for this year to 117 a month. And you'll notice when looking at the maintenance division, there's a pretty big jump from 2019 to 2020. And that's pretty much related to all the rain that we've had this year. We've got quite a few calls about drainage issues. You know, when you get 2 to 3 inches within an hour or two, that's going to cause some issues with drainage. So that's what that number is there for. Project operations, just kind of highlighting our CIP a little bit. I wanted to point out the drainage projects. We usually have about 100,000. We upped that to 200,000 with the blessing of the city manager and OCM. And what we're going to do is looking at inventorying all of our drainage pipe, looking at areas where we have deficiencies and making a plan to improve those and try to come from more of a preventative maintenance using a preemptive strike approach versus reactive like we had before. And the sinkhole that happened on West Glen really opened our eyes to things that we need to be looking at. We did not know that was there like it was. So this kind of put an impetus on us, kind of focusing a little more on preventative maintenance. And finally, our key initiatives for 21 and 22. I just mentioned the strategic storm sewer evaluation maintenance plan. So you can see what I'm talking about, the modeling and physical inspections and things of that nature, and using cured in place piping wherever we need to do it. Strategic sidewalk expansion. So looking at our inventory, prioritizing and planning out those as we need to. And development of a comprehensive sustainability program and looking for operational efficiency and obviously cost savings. And to the right there, you can see the guidance that we're using in terms of our initiatives, all the way from the citizen survey to Comp Plan 2030, Parks and Rec Cultural Master Plan, and our own mission. So with that, I'll answer the questions you guys may have.
Okay, I just, Tim, I just want to thank you and your staff for the work that y'all performed throughout the city. But I wanted to ask a few questions. One of the questions I want to ask is, how often are the streets swept?
We try to do that on a rotating basis of 4 weeks. But something to point out, Ms. Taylor, with street sweepers, they're a pretty expensive piece of equipment and they have a lot of moving parts. And with that, after about a year of having those, you start to have maintenance issues. So we try to stay on that schedule, but it's not always practical. And that's not making excuses. It's just the reality of dealing with street sweepers. There are just so many moving parts. They're down for maintenance quite a bit, but we try to do it every 4 weeks throughout the city. But we focus like downtown and the major thoroughfares. We try to do those at least 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay, and also now your schedule, is there any way that I can get a copy of the schedule when y'all sweep? So
yes,
that when they sweep on my street, I want to be able to move my car so that they can sweep. And I'm gonna go ahead and ask this third question because it sort of interacts with this question here. Is it hard to sweep on Fraser, Talbot, Williams, and Canton, especially with how they got the traffic flow now and the parking on one side of the street? Is it sort of congested to sweep up in this area now?
Well, anytime you have cars that park like that on the side of the street, you're going to have that issue. Years ago, we tried an approach. We had some signs made up, kind of like campaign signs. And we went through neighborhoods and kind of put them out to try to give advance notice that we were coming, and it didn't work. There were some people that adhered to it and took note of it and moved the cars, but a lot of people, for whatever reason, wouldn't move their vehicles. But speaking specifically of Fraser, now we can make a concerted effort ourselves to do a little bit more intimate contact with folks in that area to see if we can get them to move the cars and see if we can make some improvements there.
Okay, because I would just hate, that they came down and they paved the streets in this area and stuff, and for those for the streets to go unnoticed or unswept. But I just wanted to know about the schedule. How can I get a schedule?
I can get you a copy of that.
Okay, thank you.
I'll get it to the city manager for you, okay?
Okay. And thanks again for y'all services.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.
Anything else for Tim?
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for all your guys, ladies. Y'all do a great job.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Next, we're going to go to water resource management. And you all know that Eric Carson, who is our Director of Water Resource Management, he kind of does double duty because we also manage the water board portion of water. Water is not part of our general fund. That's the water board's purview there. But I'm going to turn it over to Eric now and let him talk to you about water resource management.
Jim, that's page 191, if we need that.
Sorry about that. You won't see water resource management listed on page 83 like the rest of the departments. That's on page 191, as Megan said.
Okay, I'm having trouble getting control of the screen.
Eric, if you try to click on the slide, see if that'll give you control.
Okay, there we go. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, I'm Eric Carson with the Water Resource Management Department. Really look forward to talking to you today and appreciate the opportunity. As Jim mentioned, Water Resource Management encompasses three principal divisions. They are the Water Treatment and Distribution Division, Wastewater Collection and Treatment, and Watershed Management Division. We're composed of 61 full-time employees, and we're tasked with the mission of managing the water quality of Auburn's water resources and to provide excellent water and sewer services to all residents and businesses. As an engineer, I could bombard you with a lot of statistics and fun fact numbers and such, but I will refer you to the budget document for those. I have a lot of slides, so I'm going to jump right in and talk about some of our recent accomplishments and then talk about some of our initiatives moving forward. Some of them are very significant and important for the growth of the city of Auburn. So I'll start with some water accomplishments. As Jim stated, the water board does not directly fall under your purview, but it is important to cover so you kind of know what's going on there. First slide here is a picture of our well number 4 production facility that's under construction right now. We started this in July of 2019, and we're very close to finishing this facility and hope to be completed this October. You may have heard me talk about this. We'll have a capacity of up to 4 million gallons a day and will help provide the city with a tremendous amount of pristine, good drinking water. This next slide talks about the transmission main associated with that project. It's about 5 miles of pipeline. And you've probably seen that project going up Wrights Mill Road or through the Chewacla State Park. And I'm happy to announce that project has gone extremely well. And with a little luck, that main will be completed this week and be ready for use. The Bailey Alexander Water and Sewer Complex renovations was another accomplishment that was completed in January of this year. That was needed to do to complete some ADA improvements. We had a leaking roof we had to replace, and we went ahead and updated some of the interior furnishings in here. It's a beautiful facility, and I invite you to visit it anytime. Farmville Water Main Extension Project is a project we just recently completed, 3,400 feet of 12-inch ductile iron pipe. This was completed with our own crews. It runs on Farmville Road between Donahue and Miracle Road and will serve the new fire station that's planned to be built and the new elementary school. And that was, as I said, completed this month. There was also some water main improvements on College between Magnolia and Thatch. Put in 500 feet of new 8-inch ductile iron water main. And we abandoned 1,700 feet of old 6-inch cast iron pipe. And believe it or not, that pipe was on our old base map from 1947. And so we got our use out of that, but we were glad to get rid of that main because it did lead to some color issues. talking about some sewer accomplishments over the last 2 years. That's a picture of our H.C. Morgan plant there. Going to the H.C. Morgan plant, we're currently working on the clarifier addition and miscellaneous improvements project. We're building our 4th clarifier out there, and we're also expanding our biosolids storage facility significantly. And we're also installing a new septage and grease receiving station for our haulers to come dump to. We began construction in March of 2020 and hope to complete that in the spring of 21. Something else that we've all been wondering about is our sewer capacity in the downtown area. And through Auburn University, we did complete the first phase of our new sewer model. I'm happy to announce, if you look at this map, these blue lines here are the main trunk lines, and looking at the legend, blue is good. That means we're less than 25% capacity on those blue mains. You will see some other colors that indicate that more capacity is being utilized there. One of the main ones starts here at Plainsman Park, where my cursor is, and moves up to the Hotel Conference Center. There are some bottlenecks in that line, and we look to be doing some improvements on that line in the near future. The Toomer Street sewer improvements, we upgraded an old 8-inch main with a new 12-inch main. That was 600 linear feet of 12-inch PVC pipe. And that again was completed with our own crews in-house. And then also on College, in addition to the water main project, we also put in 100 feet of 8-inch ductile iron pipe. That will enable those buildings as they redevelop to bring their sewer services to the front instead of the back, and make it easier for us to maintain. That was a really tight workspace. And again, that was completed with our own crews. And something we're working on now, we've initiated our wastewater facilities master plan 2020 update. This is something we do every 5 years. The last one was completed in 2015. And this project consists of evaluating flow projections for the city, loading projections, capacity limitations, and identifying future wastewater treatment capital projects. So that's very important to us, and we look to complete that this fall. On to watershed, recent accomplishments. This seems to be a popular picture today. Even though we weren't the driving force behind this, we did participate in it. We contributed money to this, and we wanted to promote and implement low impact development practices as part of the library project. Some of these included permeable pavers, a rain garden, and pollinator gardens. And this was completed in 2019. That was a group effort by several departments within the city, and quite a success. Another thing we did is we completed the Green Infrastructure Guidance document. And the reason we did this was to review city policies and regulations to identify and remove impediments to the use of green infrastructure, which is very important. Development design standards, guidance, and specifications for the use of green infrastructure were also identified. We identified some potential demonstration projects, and also we want to provide some education and outreach. And that document was completed in 2019. Moving on from accomplishments to initiatives, we have some very big initiatives coming up in the near future. As Auburn continues to grow, it's very important that we stay ahead of the curve on water and sewer capacity. That being said, one of the first initiatives we want to tackle is upgrading the James Estes Water Treatment Plant. That project's currently under design. And what we're looking to do, as the recommendations from our 2017 Water Facilities Master Plan indicated that we needed to make improvements to our electrical system and make some structural improvements to keep that plant running efficiently. Also, some of the things we identified is we're going to install a new lime feed system and a new carbon feed system. The carbon feed system is very important for handling taste and odor issues. And so this is a very important project, but when we're done with it, we believe the plant will be in good shape for at least another 15 years before any more major capital improvements will be needed. The next project on the list, many of you know, we have a contract with Opelika Utilities to buy water. and we depend on them certain times of the year to help us offset peak demands. But as the city begins to grow, we need to beef up our resources. And our current contract expires in 2033. So looking to the future, we can either extend that contract, or we could possibly participate in a partnership with them in building a new plant and having some say-so in the water being produced and sold to Auburn. So that's a major initiative for us. We're investigating it now, looking at possibly building a new plant north of Auburn that could provide water to the city of Auburn, help us meet our demands for the next 50 to 100 years. That'd be a very expensive undertaking, but also a very important one. And then finally, finalizing a long-term wastewater treatment plans. As I mentioned earlier, we're working on our 2020 facilities master plan update, which will be done this fall. And out of that will serve as our guiding document for future wastewater projects. And one of the important decisions we're going to have to make is at some point, we're going to have to decide if we're going to reopen the North Side sewer plant. As you all know, there's a lot of development in that area, so that will be a hot topic. We could also investigate constructing a new sewer plant west of there, further down Salgahatchee plant. Could also look to keep pumping the sewage to the south side of town and expanding the capacity at the H.C. Morgan plant, or some combination thereof. Either way, a decision will have to be made. And when we get the new facilities update plan here, we'll try to make those decisions and look to the council for guidance moving forward. Some other key water resource management initiatives, just want to touch on briefly, is the highway on the water side, Highway 14 water main improvements between Donahue and Shug. This would be completed as part of the MLK Streetscape project. I don't know if that's still on the books for the next 2 years, but we have it on ours just in case. We're looking at a fixed network meter reading system, which would allow us to read water meters right here from our office. That would improve customer service and also help us possibly identify leaks on customers' lines and notifying them. And that would in effect save them tremendously on their water and sewer bills if we can do that. Also, we're looking at renovating the Teague Court tank out here by our office. That tank was built in the early 2000s, and it's time for the interior coating to be redone on that. So that'll be done in the next year. On the sewer side, we've identified 2 basins, Basin 6 and 16, that need some rehab work done on it. There will be a contract coming forward soon to complete that rehab work. That includes some lines on the west side of the Auburn University campus and in the Longleaf Lane area. Moving on to the north side force main. You may remember a year ago, last January, we had some emergency repairs we had to make to that line. That line has had some deterioration due to some hydrogen sulfide gases. And we're looking at replacing about 5,000 feet of that ductile iron pipe with new HDPE pipe that is resistant to deterioration. And that's about a $600,000 project that will be coming soon. And also the final sewer initiative coming up there would be the H.C. Morgan clarifier weir and baffle replacement project. I know that sounds funny, but it's very important to the clarifier working properly. Then on the watershed, upcoming initiatives is implementing some of the green infrastructure guidance document recommendations, and then also completing a stream restoration project down at H.C. Morgan. I know that's a mouthful and I covered a lot, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have, and thank you for your time.
Any questions for Eric?
Thanks, Eric. You guys do a great job.
Thank you, Ron.
Well, and I'll chime in very quickly. Eric, I appreciate you guys. Sorry, it's Jay. Appreciate you and your staff's efforts with the pipeline down Wrightsville Road and through the park. That was a touchy subject that I think you guys ultimately handled very well, and proud of the customer service. That was something that it's one of those things you just can't make everybody happy, but I think you guys did as best you could.
Well, thank you, Jay. And with a little luck, we hope to have a ribbon cutting for that in November. just keep that in mind, everybody. So.
And I don't know if we've shared it with you, with the council yet, but Eric did get a nice note from one or more of the bike people who utilize that bike path, who admitted that they were wrong, that they had anticipated the sky to fall and that the trail through the park would have been irreparably damaged. But they were very thankful to Eric and to the contractor because basically you can't tell that there's a pipe there. Eric, that's pretty fair analysis of what was said to you, correct?
That is correct. And I'd like to take credit for it, but in all honesty, the contractor has done a tremendous job, and a lot of that credit should go to that contractor and our engineers who helped oversee the project. They've done a tremendous job. That may possibly be the best contractor we've ever worked with. So.
All righty, any other questions for Eric? If not, thank you, Eric. We're going to now go to Parks and Recreation and Miss Becky Richardson. Parks and Recreation starts on page 145 of your book. And Becky, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, I think that I went one too far. Let's see. Okay. First of all, good afternoon, and I'm happy to be here today. And I first wanted to take a little bit different tactic in talking to you about the last 2 years, and that is to talk about 2020, which was probably one of the most challenging years you could ever find in Parks and Recreation, because you can't use your facilities, you're limited what you can do as far as working with your participants. But I'm extremely proud of our staff for what they were able to achieve this year, and wanted to touch on a few of the things that they were able to do. First of all, I wanted to talk about athletics. When 2020 started, we set new number highs for both soccer and basketball pre-pandemic. And then, of course, we wound up giving refunds for baseball and spring soccer and volleyball and track. Currently, our numbers are at around 50% of the numbers that we had prior to the pandemic. But the staff has done a great job as far as scheduling, organizing, and making sure with all of our programs that we have been within guidelines. Our youth programs and events were another challenge. The day camps were canceled, and there was a lot of concern about risk and things for day camps. So our staff came up with a great idea of doing pop-up camps, and they did those camps at different places around town. The photo is of a fishing day that we had out at the soccer complex, in the pond at the soccer complex. So the kids were socially distant and were not too crowded, and they had a great time. We also had a drive-in movie for the kids where the kids made their car, and then they sat in their car that they made as part of the art project to watch their movie. We believe that the day camps will continue to be a popular part of our summer activities, and are looking forward to facilities to be able to expand those. We are adjusting a lot of our big children's events as we did with our adult events. We are having a drive-through trick or treat in October, and we feel like that will be a good offering for our October children's event. 50 plus is, of course, one of our biggest groups, and our staff spent a lot of extra time reaching out to that group early in the pandemic to reassure them, to make sure they weren't trying to come up here when they didn't need to be here, and just providing them with connection to our programs. We've done a lot of virtual activities. We do virtual bingo, and let me tell you, it is pretty hardcore, and they get pretty loud when they get on that. We also have had a lot of virtual exercise programs, and we are currently scheduling some live fall activities, such as a seniors movie night, where we will put them on one of the baseball fields so they can be socially distant. And the lap swim at Sanford Pool has been very popular. The majority of the people participating in that are 50 plus, and we've extended those hours through the end of September. In addition, Gabby and some of her folks have done wellness check-in calls where they've called some of the seniors that wanted more connection to catch up with them and just have some interaction. Our parks and facilities folks have been extremely busy. Our parks experienced a very large increase in visitors because that was one place where people could go and be socially distant. We had a lot of people walking, a lot of families going out just to have picnics and such. We have a lot of book clubs and other groups that meet in the parks, and it's kind of created a challenge for our parks crews in that they are trying to keep the parks maintained around all of the additional people. In addition, we continued working on some improvements and other work that we had going on. We finished the improvements to the Sam Harris Park. The photo at the bottom of the page is the new pavilion at Sam Harris Park. We've already had some people using it, and it's a nice addition. We also repaired the spillway at Town Creek Park, which we hope will take care of some of the water problems there. We've done invasive plant removal at Duck Sanford Park and at Kiesel Park. And we just recently finished the renovation at Hickory Dickory Park, which it almost looks like a totally new playground because of that. We completed the skate park, and that has been going well. And our parks have become home to many of our events, not just City Market and some of our concerts, but some of our exercise classes and other things that we probably wouldn't have put there before the pandemic. In addition, our cemetery folks were very busy, not just with funerals, but we had a large number of people contacting us just wanting to buy lots just to prepare. And so we had a lot of cemetery sales this year, and we'll have one more month before we have the final numbers on that. We also, as far as our facilities people, they did a lot of the sanitizing and other work at our facilities, and also came up with several creative things to provide sanitizing at our parks and other facilities. Uh-oh. Okay, let me start over. Okay. So for 21 and 22, we have several initiatives that we're going to be working on. First of all, we are finishing the Frank Brown Rec Center project, which will free up additional space at Dean Road Recreation Center, which can be used for programs. And that should be finished by the end of next month at the latest. So we're really looking forward to that. And the work to get the space at Dean Road ready for use will be taking place in the next budget year. Also, the bottom photo is of Dennis Park, and we're excited about getting that going because I think the public, that will give them one more outdoor facility that can be used both for exercise and by families. We've always pursued tournaments and other events as revenue generators. We had approximately 20 tennis tournaments booked before the pandemic. And so as of today, we've only done 2 in this year. We are doing one Labor Day weekend, and we are already in line for a number of those tournaments that we were not gonna have, that we would have had this year, next year. In addition, we've had 5 or 6 travel baseball and softball tournaments, and we'll continue to book some of those for the rest of this year and then next year. And we had 1 soccer tournament this year, and we'll have several soccer tournaments as well next year. And one of the things that kind of came out of our pop-up day camp idea is we were thinking that it would be a value to offer an opportunity for people in different parts of the city to experience some of our recreation activities. And so we're going to do some pop-up recreation events and move them around the city that will not only introduce children and adults to our programs, but we would like to get some of the nonprofits in town involved to let them participate so people can see what they offer as well. And we'll be starting that next year. So I believe that was all of mine. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Becky, I wanted to recommend Councilman Dawson and Councilman Griswold for your 50 and over programs. They probably need a few extra things to do, so please contact them. I wanted to ask about,
I think Councilman Griswold's wife came to our drive-through farmers market, so.
Good. Well, thank y'all for doing that. I've heard many good things about that. The inclusive playground is on our CIP for this year for the council to consider here in the coming weeks. Can you kind of talk about the need for that and what kind of spurred our desire to build that playground for our citizens?
Yeah, that's actually been on our Parks and Rec Advisory Board's radar for quite some time. And we had some parents came to the Parks and Rec Board who had children that were challenged and that they wanted to hopefully build something like that for them. And so they made a presentation showing some playgrounds in other cities, and our staff went out and kind of investigated what some other cities had done. And we wanted to do something that would address all needs, not just people that had maybe a disability as far as needing assistance, or wheelchair or whatever, but people with autism or Down syndrome. And there are certain things that those clients are more sensitive to, or that would be more appealing to them. And a lot of those things have been considered in looking at the playground. And one of the things that we decided in the design was to design it in pods. So the pods will have different activities for different groups. And so we're excited about it, and we think that the public will really enjoy it.
Good. Well, thank you. Thank you for all your staff for enduring during such a tough time.
Oh, thank you so much.
Any other questions for Becky?
Yeah, Becky, this is Bob. Hey, I'm really excited for the inclusive park as well. Obviously, it's in Ward 6, and I just wanted to ask if you're able to provide us with a timeline as to when that's going to begin, and we'll see it start to appear.
I think it was on the calendar for
on the lot.
2021. Isn't that right, Mr. Buxton?
I believe it's in the FY21. Yeah, I don't know, Bob, the exact date. Assuming that the council passes the budget as presented, I think that I'm not sure, Becky, do we still need to go out to bid on it?
Yes, we would have to put it out to bid.
So it would be a bid of about a month or so. I think it could get started fairly early in the process, though.
Great, thanks a lot.
Any other questions for Becky?
Well, I just got a comment, Becky. I appreciate the work that y'all did at Sam Harris Park, and the park looks good. Then the only other, I do want to ask this question. Do you, can you find it in your budget to maybe expand the platform a little bit for the basketball goal?
At Sam Harris? We can take a look at it. There's not a whole lot of room there, but we can certainly take a look at it.
Okay, thank you. But it looks good.
Okay. All righty, thank you, Becky. We are going to next go to Mr. Al Davis, who is our Community Services Director. Al's information starts on page 119 of your budget document. And Al, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Guess my slides will be up here soon. Okay. Good afternoon, Council. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to spend a moment and talk a little bit about what we're doing and who we are and the type of projects we're involved with. My screen is moving. Let me see if I can move it back. Okay, won't go back. It won't go back. I don't know, it's just moving. Okay. Give me a second, we'll see if we can get it back. Greg, can you get this to move back? Thank you. The Community Service Department, we see what we do basically summed up in 5 terms. One of those is create. We feel like we create opportunities for families to realize the dream of homeownership. That's something big that we feel like we do. Invest. We fix existing homes for homeowners. That's something that we have been doing for many years in the city of Auburn, and we are continuing to do it with assistance from several of our community partners. We serve individuals and families experiencing or at risk of homelessness and those in need of essential services. So services like child care and youth programming and seniors, we're very much involved with all of those activities. We leverage the economic development activities that support job creation. We do that through our Section 108 loan program. And we manage the Borken Community Center complex. Managing Borken, we feel, is one of the highlights of what we do. We're very fortunate that all of the tenants at Borken are sub-recipients of CDBG funding. So we get a chance to see what they do every day. We interact with them every day. And I think it puts us in a wonderful position to make sure the dollars that we're allocating to them from CDBG funding is being utilized in the appropriate manner and in a manner that serves a good segment of our community. We're certainly looking forward to the addition of the Auburn Center for African American History and Culture to the Borken Community Complex. As you know, the initial plans is that center would be built in the style of the Rosenwald School, and we feel that fits very nicely with Borken, considering its previous history as a school. We look forward to being able to provide some staff support to that new facility, handle some facility maintenance, monitoring of the center, as well as opening and closing of the center. I anticipate at some point the staff will present a more formal presentation to the council, laying out more specific information about the Auburn Center for African American History and Culture. We have really two basic initiatives for the next biennial. One is to expand the resource opportunities at the Boykin Community Center to enhance the quality of life for low to moderate income neighborhood residents. And the other is to increase opportunities for affordable housing. We have several main projects that we're going to undertake in the next biennial. One is that we will partner, we've been partnering with them now for a while, with the North Auburn Housing Development Corporation to home ownership opportunities for families. We're going to try to build 2 houses a year. As you can see from the photo on the slide, that we have completed the site work for the first 2 houses that will be built in the Tucker Heights subdivision. Right now, the first 2 homeowners have already been identified. They're already going through the whole financing process to put themselves in a position to acquire their first mortgage. And so we're ready to begin building the first of those houses in September. So we feel good about this project. We see the value of home ownership, and both of the first 2 homeowners are very excited about being able to see their new home constructed over this next year. We will also launch a new technology resource center at the Boykin Community Center, which we think is a great addition to Boykin. It is basically a computer lab. We will have a space in there for some 12 stations. We're going to start off with 4 computers, and we'll see how things go as we open the center up to the public. We'll provide an opportunity for people that need access to a computer to be able to get to one, but we'll also have a printer in there as well as a scanner. So we are looking forward to launching the Technology Resource Center this year. We also partner with the Auburn Housing Authority. We do a lot of partnerships with them. Auburn Housing Authority formed a nonprofit last year called the Auburn Community Development Corporation, and they are going to work with us to launch the Boykin Community Center Food Pantry. We have always had a good working relationship with the food bank, and this will be an opportunity to put a food pantry in Northwest Auburn. We have a tremendous number of people that utilize this facility, so we feel very happy about having a food pantry right here at the Boykin Center. And of course, we will implement the State of Auburn CDBG Annual Action Plan projects and activities. You have seen a lot of this already as we have brought these plans to council for your approval. And over the next 2 years, we will implement each year the action plan for the allocations of the annual appropriation we receive. Some accomplishments, we're a very small staff, but we're very efficient, and we handle a great deal of funding from HUD, and we feel very committed to doing as good a job as we can and making sure we can administer those dollars with our findings and being able to assist as many of the citizens as we can. As you can see, just from last year alone, 745 seniors received services through our CDBG program. That's a lot of seniors getting a lot of services, but we are delighted to be able to have the dollars to be able to help our seniors. Over 400 youth were provided education, recreation, and culture programs using CDBG dollars. We work with Park and Recs a great deal to make sure we're able to cover some of the registration fees for low moderate income children that may otherwise not have an opportunity to participate in some of the recreational programs. We were able to rehab 3 houses last year. We don't do major rehabs. We do those through our partners, but we do minor rehab projects, and we were able to do some of that in-house this past year. We've had 300 individuals or families receive homeless prevention services through the CDBG program. And when we say homeless prevention services, we're talking about utility assistance, mortgage assistance, rental assistance. And we've been able to help quite a few families last year. We have approximately 600 individuals or families that come through this facility daily. I don't think a lot of people realize just how busy Boykin is. But on any typical day, we're average about 600. We did a count yesterday and it was like 527. So there are a lot of people that are coming through Boykin for services. And so we see ourselves as a hub in this part of town to be able to service as many individuals and families as we can. Tim mentioned our veggie garden, the veggie trail. It has been truly a popular activity, not only for the city staff that's kind of help get this up and running, but for our children who visit it on regularly. There's a class out there just about every day walking through the trails and looking at the vegetables. Teachers use it as an outdoor teaching, a classroom, and it has been really good for the children. The seniors who are not here this summer look forward to every 2 weeks when their food boxes are delivered to their homes. We make sure that we send them some fresh produce every 2 weeks. And they really look forward to that. And they have been one of our main groups to benefit from the existence of the veggie trails. And we hope that this program will continue to grow. Of course, we have a lot of calls that come into this department. On average, we're handling 60 a day. If it's not emails, it's walk-in. But we just enjoy what we do. So it doesn't matter the number of calls we get. We're here to serve the community and we look forward to doing that. Is there any questions or anything else anyone would like to ask me about community services?
Okay, yes, I would like to see, were you able to put the marquee in your budget for Boykin?
Hey, Connie, can you speak up a little bit? We can hardly hear you.
Hardly hear you.
He's asking about a marquee in the,
Okay.
in the budget for the Boykin Community Center, and that should be located on page 248 in capital outlay.
Page 248.
Yes, ma'am. Page 248. Connie, you're breaking up really badly. We can hardly hear you.
I don't know what the problem is because I'm in a room by myself, so I don't know. Unless
Yeah, it's listed as an outdoor digital display or outdoor digital sign on page 248 under community services.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Do you have any idea when that will be installed?
Well, it will certainly be this coming fiscal year, and we're already beginning the planning and looking at some designs on what that sign may look like.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Al, if I could kind of blindside you here a little bit, could you talk a little bit about the pharmacy nursing addition to the Boykin?
I certainly can. I really didn't overlook it. It's one of those projects that we're working collaboratively with the university. We think that's going to be a tremendous asset, not only to Northwest Auburn, but the entire community. Right now, we are actually nearing completion. It's really completed now. We walked through it the other day. It's all the work has been completed on the clinic. At this point, it's almost ready to turn over back to the university so they can begin to furnish it and prepare to actually open the clinic. But it is complete. It's going to be a wonderful facility, and I think offer not only some pharmacy services to the community, but certainly all the other services that come with a clinic. So we're very excited about that project and just happy to see it finally get completed. They worked a lot doing this the last couple of months to make sure that it was completed on time. And I think the community will be very pleased once they see it.
Thank you, Al. Any other questions for Al?
Hey, Al, I just want to say thank you. This whole idea of the veggie trail is very unique, and I applaud you and Tim and your staff for putting that together, and to see it be more than just a science project for children. Y'all are really making a difference in family and providing food for them. And I think that's a wonderful idea. There's a lot of takeaways from an effort like that. And I I just appreciate the way you and your staff really involve yourself in the lives of the people that you serve. Good job.
Thank you so much.
And one more
Yes,
question.
yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me now?
You're still breaking up a bit, but I can hear you a little bit.
Yeah, y'all was breaking up too. I was just wondering, you said that the clinic, is it where we can come in and look and do a walkthrough?
Are you asking whether or not there will be an opportunity for the council to tour it? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Well, I'll certainly work with the city manager and as to see about a potential date that we can set up for you to be able to do that.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Davis? All righty, thank you, Al.
Thank you so much.
We are now going to go to inspection services. So Mr. John Hoare on inspection services, you'll find in the book page 115. And John, take it away. John, if you may need to unmute yourself and we can't see you.
You can?
Okay, now we can hear you.
Sorry about this.
What about the video? That's okay. Let's just go with the audio.
There we go. Can you see me now?
No, but we can hear you.
Okay, I apologize. Something's not working over here. I appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity to discuss inspection services, things we've done over the last year and what we plan on for the future. As I think most of y'all may know, we work with contractors, homeowners, business owners, design professionals in regards to construction of new buildings, remodeling and alterations. We try to have an approach that we're partners with them, not just out there enforcing. We want to work with them to construct all these projects in a safe manner that will last a long time and provide the needs that they want. As we work, our office is kind of divided up into 4 categories. We have administrative, plan review, building and fire inspections, and our neighborhood inspector. Our administration consists of myself, an admin assistant, 2 permit techs. Our admin assistant permit techs, their responsibilities range from taking permit inspections, issuing permits, providing advice, making sure people are directed in the proper direction that they may need, or find who could help them if someone in our office cannot help them. Our plan reviewers are made up of 2 people. We got 2 plan reviewers. They look at the plans for storage sheds, pool houses, houses, businesses, hotels, apartments, and industrial buildings. So they cover the gamut of the type of plans they review. They have to have the knowledge of structural components, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, accessibility, and many of the other requirements that may be found in the zoning ordinance or other city design and maintenance documents to make sure the plans and things that we receive meet all those types of functions. Just an example of the building code aspects that they have to be aware of is over 3,000 pages. So our 2 plan reviewers are pretty knowledgeable and spend a lot of time researching and studying. Then once a plan review is done, permits issued, our inspectors then take over, and they will inspect buildings, some structural, plumbing, electrical, mechanical again, accessibility, fire and sprinkler alarms, and life safety and any other city requirements. And so we have 2 final inspectors, 4 building inspectors, and 1 fire inspector that handles all these duties. We also, our office houses the neighborhood inspector. And this was a position that was created a few years ago to deal with issues such as overgrown grass, maybe junk in people's yards, dilapidated structures, signs in the right of way. And it's designed in order for our neighborhood inspector to talk and meet with the people that may be having issues, maybe find out what's going on, why they can't fix it. He has worked with community groups around town to provide aid, maybe get someone's grass mowed that they can't afford it or just physically can't do it. So Daniel works heavily to put a positive face and a friendly face on situations that aren't usually always cheerful. One of the things that has really helped our neighborhood inspector is the Fix It app. It streamlines and allows us to have direct interchange with people as they find problems around town. So that is one place that it's helped us, and I think the citizens that we deal with. As we move on, I apologize. Just as an example of some statistics and data that we collect, we use this data and statistics to identify trends in order to evaluate changes need to be made, to follow just the ebb and flow of construction so we can make future plans. And just as an example here, this is showing family dwellings since 2002, how we have steadily increased. And in the middle of the graph, you'll see where it was kind of the recession. We're estimating this year we're going to end up around 607 family homes built, which is to me pretty impressive since we've had the issues of COVID over this last year. Construction has, to me, become an essential business with the number of people they hire, the income that has come off of selling the materials to build these houses and things of that nature. And so this is an example of some data that we collect as time goes on. Some of the other statistics and things that go back to some of the different duties of the staff here in inspection services is in fiscal year 2020, we issued 3,693 permits. Those include electrical, mechanical, things of that nature. We issued 1,031 building type permits, and the valuation of for all the permits issued in FY 2020, actually I looked at some updated numbers today. The numbers I have on this chart are from last Thursday. We're now at $457 million for evaluation of buildings constructed this last year, and we still have another 4 weeks to go. So construction is extremely strong. This year, our inspectors have inspected over 19,000 inspections. With another month to go, we're averaging about 100 inspections a day. So we expect to see that go up significantly over the next month. Our neighborhood inspector has been involved with 980 complaints across the city over the last year, and dealt with them efficiently and kindly, and providing customer service, as I said before. And situation is not always a positive, cheerful situation when these situations arrive. Our permit techs and administrative assistant last year answered 20,500 phone calls and received 55,000 electronic requests. It may be an email or through our portal. And our plan reviewers reviewed almost 1,200 plans for this year. Some of the data that I'll go to in a few minutes is through some innovations and our initiatives. We've been able to reduce some of these numbers from just a few years ago, such as communications. And I think that is helping everybody across the board. Some of our innovations this past year, in March, due to COVID, we relocated our office to operate remotely for 4 days. We were working out of houses, and the inspectors were working out of their pickup trucks. Because we had been utilizing technology and continually every day, every week, trying to integrate it more and more into our processes, we were able to successfully provide all permits that were requested that week. We continued plan reviews, and we requested that all inspections that were requested, we were able to meet those needs of the public. So it did not interrupt the construction process here in town, which was thriving. And so we feel that due to the steps we have taken and the steps we keep taking, that we are able to offer the services even in some unusual circumstances. And we worked heavily with our IT department. They were always there. So we see our success easily integrated into other departments, providing us help and guidance at times as well. The utilizing technology, again, ties back into how we were able to operate the COVID, the tablets and things of that nature. We're also working heavily on increasing our, when we do code adoptions, working with the design community, contractors, and the public to receive input and have them provide their opinions and work with them on educational to help them transition from one code to another one before we adopt it. It's much easier to do education and teaching it before it's built than fixing it after. And all the things we've done and plan on doing are tied to our initiatives of using technology to track what we've done and having key metrics to improve, working to have, being able to get the data and able to quickly respond to the needs of the city staff and the citizens. And then lastly, our initiative is to maintain up-to-date codes. It reduces citizens' insurance and continually provides safe housing and commercial use by our citizens. Does anybody have any questions?
John, I have no idea how y'all keep up with what you do. These numbers are really incredible. How do you even begin to organize your workload?
One of the things that we started a couple of years ago was CityWorks. It's a program across the city that organizes, interconnects the different departments in development. And I wish I could take credit for it, but everybody in this office is pretty strong on trying to keep it organized and things of that nature. If we don't, it would be easy to get lost.
Thanks for your hard work, man. Thank you for your staff as well.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions for John? All righty, John, thank you very much. Council, we only have 2 more presentations, so hang in there with us. The next one is from Planning Services, our Planning Director, Forrest Cotton, and his information starts on page 111 of the budget document. And Forrest, take it away. Forrest, you are muted.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, members of the City Council, for the opportunity to present the planning departments, not only our work program for the next upcoming biennium, but some of the accomplishments that we've able to make in conjunction with other departments and many of the boards and commissions that we serve. Just a few data points about our department. We're one of the smaller departments in the city. We have a staff of 7 positions. We've in 2013, we did some things organizationally to flatten out the department. We have 2 principal planners, one of which is Katie Robinson, who many of you know. She's one of our longer tenured employees with the department. We have another principal planner position that we're currently recruiting for aggressively. 1 senior planner, Logan Kipp, who's one of our newer staff members. He's coming up on a 3-year anniversary. Jay Howell is a staff planner. He's been with us for 2 years, and Stephanie Kennedy, who's our most recent addition to the staff and has been a great addition, has been with us for 6 months. She is our other planner. And last but certainly not least would be Amber English, who's our administrative assistant, who without her, we would suffer greatly and probably fall apart. So she doesn't get enough credit. One thing that I'd like to make the council aware of is that most of the planning department's work program is actually embodied in Comprehensive Plan 2030 or Comp Plan 2030, which was put into place in 2011. So there's a very orderly and deliberate manner in which we proceed with our work program on the strategic side of things. If you were to go back and look at that document when it was first adopted, it clearly pointed to 3 areas of the city that needed immediate planning attention. And so we proceeded to tackle those projects one by one with lengthy public input process, a great deal of assistance from other departments in the community. Renew Opelika Road, for example, that was a 13 and 14 initiative. That was immediately followed by the Downtown Master Plan, which was a 15-16 initiative. And it's important to note that there's actually 2 stages in planning to how these plans get done. The first is the plan itself, but then the second is what I call the planning programming of the plan, which is writing all the code that is necessary to adopt and implement the vision of those plan documents over time. We've got I think, a really sound system in place internally where once we begin to find that we've got general support for the plan and we don't anticipate anything major is going to change, we actually begin to write the code before the plan's even adopted, which has allowed us to bring those implementation components to you in very short order after the plan's adopted. The third major plan was, of course, Northwest Auburn, and that was largely a 17 and 18 initiative. And so we were able to kind of knock those things off our list. And I think it's important to really stress the importance of planning, because I always say without planning, you can't program. You don't really have anything to guide your decision-making and justify what you're doing. And I think what you saw in the presentation last night by both the city manager, but mostly the assistant city manager, was all the capital improvements. And you probably found that a large percentage of those tie back to all of those planning documents. So the manner in which we plan and program in the city, I think, is quite admirable. And I think we do a very good job of beginning to program immediately upon plan adoption. A lot of cities, you've heard about plans sitting on a shelf and never anything being done with them. I think what you see here and evidence of over the past 7-8 years with those plans in particular is the opposite of that. Actually putting our money where our mouth is, following our plan, and actually seeing the vision begin to be realized much quicker than I think you'll see in other communities. Over the past biennium, however, the 1920 biennium, we were busy. We knocked out those 3 bigger plans, and we began to focus on some infill areas and smaller areas that we accomplished via focus area studies. Harper Avenue was a big one for us. That's the aerial image that you see is the Harper Avenue focus area study. That was an important area for us because it is close to town. It has a lot of potential. There's a lot of infill and redevelopment that has already occurred. We think there's potential to see housing types in there that aren't exclusively designed for students, which is a lot of what the new construction has been. And you'll see in fairly short order some recommendations that will be coming to you most likely at your second meeting in October, dealing with some regulatory recommendations for change to some of the zoning districts in this area that we think might help facilitate new construction of housing that would not necessarily be geared strictly for students. And we think that's important, not just to have a balance in the market, but also facilitate and enhance neighborhood stability. The Glendine focus area study was another smaller study, as the title suggests, in the immediate confines of the Glendine intersection and commercial node. But we spent a lot of time looking at some of the parcels right along Dean, considerably north of the intersection, considerably south. We have a lot of single family with the widening of Dean. A lot of those single family structures that are directly accessing Dean are no longer appropriate. And quite frankly, their values are probably suffering. So we've been able to go in there and program some zoning to allow those property owners to begin to move themselves out of those properties and see them redevelop for more useful and viable purposes. The major street plan and corridor overlay update was something that we accomplished in cooperation and assistance with engineering services. Not only was the major street plan updated, but our corridor overlay regulations, which are simply put, apply to the more highly traveled, highly visible corridors in the city. They have enhanced regulatory requirements, mostly aesthetic related. As we've grown in all directions, but mostly to the north and the west, it made sense that we needed to update that list of corridor streets to include a lot of the new streets that are becoming increasingly visible and populated. And then last but not least on the completed list would be the most recently completed focus area study out in the Coxwire Road area. So what you've seen us do is focus on the inner loop or the properties inside the inner loop, put an emphasis on infill redevelopment. Now that we've accomplished those things, we're beginning to move out of the loop. And Coxwire was really our first venture out of the inner loop. And you'll see in a couple of additional slides some major focus area studies, one of which is underway and one of which will be coming up in the next biennium. So here are some current projects that are currently in the state of process, many of which I think at least the first two should be coming to completion in reasonably short order. I alluded to some of the regulatory recommendations that the planning department is making to help, I think, ease some of the issues that we're facing with student housing, both of the private dormitory variety and the academic detached dwelling unit variety. Private dormitory regulations have been put in place, were put in place in conjunction with the downtown master plan in 2016. The ADDU regulations have just been in place for a little over a year. Those were adopted in spring of 19. There's some things we think we can do there again to help with some of the challenges we faced and one of the major reasons why we're currently under the moratorium. Short-term regulations, I would fully admit we were really getting close to wrapping those up when COVID hit. We actually had a final work session that had been requested by the Planning Commission. That had to be delayed, but we've gotten that effort back on track. We're having that final Planning Commission work session on the 9th of September. I hope that that's the final one. And if it is the final one, I believe we can move those regulations forward in very short order to you. Revisions to downtown development and design standards. That's something that we're working on at the staff level directly with the Downtown Design Review Committee, Downtown Development Review Committee. That's going quite well. We're making really good progress. Some of that will require enhancements to new buildings downtown, additional requirements that would likely and quite frankly add additional expense, and hopefully will make some of those student housing decision-making on behalf of developers much more deliberate. And that is another component of our multifaceted approach to dealing with that issue that we've been grappling with, I think for the past 5 years is fair to say, and we've taken regulatory steps, but I think we understand that we need to take additional regulatory steps. The last study that's currently being worked on is our Highway 280 focus area study. That's an area where we are quickly seeing new growth, and we try as best we can to plan ahead of that growth so that what we get is predictable and desirable and not haphazard. And that's fundamentally what planning is all about. We took our first crack because of COVID. We had a virtual public input session last week to gather stakeholder input. I think it went really well. We had about 40 participants, which I think on the surface that number sounds low, but when you consider the fact that most of the property along that corridor is held by relatively few people and are in quite large parcel configurations, that 40 participant number I was actually quite pleased with. Coming up very shortly, every 10 years at the decennial census time, once those results are released, the planning department is charged with devising a redistricting plan for the city, which will change council member boundaries. Each boundary has to be as equitable as possible in terms of population. We know that we've grown everywhere, but we've grown largely and then concentrated to the north and to the west. So I think districts in that northwest quadrant of the city can certainly expect to see some boundary changes as a result of those findings. We'll talk a little bit more in detail about that in a moment. Highway 14 focus area study. Again, we're moving around outside of the inner loop. We've already seen considerable growth along Highway 14. We have a new development in Plainsman Lakes, which is the Webster Lake property that we're currently looking at and that has recently been rezoned. And we want to begin to pay our attention to that as soon as we wrap up 280. And then, not surprisingly, the comp plan is coming up on being 10 years old next year. And so we will have our second 5-year major update of the comp plan where we'll be sitting down with all the different departments that have elements of the comp plan and updating that comprehensively to ensure its credibility and validity over time. Just touching back to the 2020 Census Initiative, you see some dates here. This would be in a typical year, a non-COVID year, where we would expect the data to be released by April and then have a plan in place for the council to adopt by the end of September. We expect both of those dates to lag. We expect the data to be released sometime later than April, which would mean we would have some additional time to get the new districts adopted by the council. But hopefully it won't be too much later than those normal dates. A little more detail about the Highway 14 focus area study, which will be a major goal of the department in this upcoming biennium. We'll be looking at the area that you see bounded in blue with a major emphasis on the north, because there's obviously some physical obstacles and some limitations because of the railroad track on the south side. But all of that area will be looked at and examined. It actually borders to the south, the Cox Wire focus area study. So all these things are beginning to fit together kind of like a big puzzle. We know there's some commercial mixed use opportunities near Shug Jordan and Martin Luther King. So we'll be looking close at that property. And then we're going to continue to discourage leapfrog development. Bear in mind that, of course, Willow Creek's been around for years. Woodland Park preceded the comp plan, as did the preserve. I think we've learned some lessons from that. And so we will continue to place an emphasis upon efficient infill growth as an alternative to residential leapfrog sprawl development, which we know is highly expensive to serve. The 5-year major update of the comp plan is just that. It is just a comprehensive update of the plan. We'll be going chapter by chapter. We'll be meeting with school board officials. We'll be meeting with members of staff from various departments. We have a natural resources element. We have a parks and rec element. So that's really a good time to have our various teams sit down, work together collaboratively to update that plan, because many of those elements are not planning's element. They're the elements of the school board, or as I mentioned, parks and rec, public safety. We want them to be involved, and we want them to tell us what they need to have in the plan. And with that, that is what things are looking like for planning over the next biennium, and kind of where we're at now and where we were over the past several years, and how our work program kind of all fits together. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, this is Kelly. I've got a couple of questions. On the Highway 14 area plan, again, I know I've mentioned this a time or two, but if there's any possible way that we can accelerate the connector road from 14 down to 14, I'm sorry, from Richland down to 14, I think that would be highly beneficial, particularly for all those neighborhoods, as you just mentioned a minute ago, with the Willow Creek and the new developments and that kind of stuff. And it would certainly help the folks out on Richland Road that are subject to basically what is a one-way in, one-way out dead end road. I know there's a couple of small, goat paths they can take to get out through neighborhoods, but I think that is one of the things we need to have a priority on as much as possible.
Agreed and understood, and the city staff's working very diligently in that regard.
Yeah, I know y'all are working on it. That's great. Okay, and the other thing was, I don't think in the past we've had anything in the budget for like the Historic Preservation Commission, for example. They don't have any budget whatsoever. So they're unable really to initiate studies or surveys or things like that, or to contemplate signage or those types of things for signage designs. I was wondering if you had the an opportunity to consider some kind of a budget for the HPC.
I'm currently working with one of our planners to be the new staff liaison for that committee until we bring our new principal planner on board. But yes, if there are specific needs that the commission has, then we are certainly glad to listen to those and adjust our budgetary requests as needed.
Okay, all right, great. And I appreciate if y'all can do that before you present us the budget for our concurrence, in case they need something. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Forrest? All righty. Oh, thank you, Forrest. And now our last presenter for this evening is from Engineering Services, Allison Frazier, our city engineer. And Engineering Services information starts on page 123. Allison, go ahead.
Thank you, Jim. And thank you, City Council, for this opportunity to tell you a little bit about the Engineering Services Department. We are a relatively small department. We have about 25 members. We have 2 co-op students. But I first want to thank my staff. I have the most amazing staff of all the city departments, and it's because of what they do and their dedication to the city that we're able to accomplish the things that I'll tell you a little bit about today. So we manage and design a lot of different projects. What you see on your screen, it varies. We do roadway improvements, we do sidewalk improvements, we do facilities. We also manage the skate park. So our biggest impact is in the area of capital projects. If you've driven around town lately, all of us have had the experience of seeing or experiencing or even being inconvenienced a little bit by one of our capital projects. But the goal is always to enhance the quality of life for our citizens. We do that by our designs, roadway projects, sidewalks, parks and recreation facilities, intersection improvements, streetscapes, just different types of projects. So over the past couple of years, we've completed 18 projects. Our capital projects division is comprised of an engineering manager. We have 2 surveyors, we have 2 drafters, 3 project managers, and 1 right-of-way acquisition specialist. Currently, we have 13 projects under construction or soon to be under construction. And we're currently working on 13 projects with a design value of almost $60 million. Those are things we do day in and day out. We also have an accountant in our department as well as an administrative coordinator. As you can imagine, along with all of the capital projects, there are many projects and contracts to be managed. So we currently have 26 contracts under our umbrella. Another highly visible area of engineering services is in the area of traffic signals, signs, and pedestrian lights. Of our 4 major areas of responsibility, this one always garners the most attention. We have a traffic engineer, we have 2 traffic systems technicians, 1 sign maintenance technician, and 1 traffic technician. And the traffic engineering division, we maintain 66 signals, over 1,300 street name signs, and almost 4,600 regulatory and other signs. We conduct traffic analyses when we get requests for 4-way stops or all-way stops. Our traffic staff does that. Traffic calming is also something that we do. Since COVID hit, we've had a backlog. So we actually have 11 traffic calming petitions or requests on our list now that we will start to analyze soon after the Labor Day holiday. One of the things that is interesting to note is our increase in decorative pedestrian lights. In the past 5 years, the number of pedestrian lights has more than doubled. And we install those lights commensurate with the downtown master plan boundary. So those are things that we also maintain, we troubleshoot, we of course pay the power bill, but as development continues, the installation and maintenance of those lights will also increase. Development reviews, another large component of what we do. Since we started our development review process, you can see from the chart, our trends, we had a really big boost our first year. And in 2009 and 2010, it was a very small year for us. But as we're tracking now, we're on track to have approximately 80 new sets of plans submitted, reviewed, handled through our department. We coordinate that with 7 other city departments as far as managing the comments, getting those comments back to the consultants, helping schedule the pre-construction meetings, helping coordinate press releases for roadway closures, sidewalk closures. And we also assist our executive director for development services in developing conditions for development agreements. When the planning commission or the city council adds conditions to a development that need to say a conditional use, those conditions have to be included in a development agreement. So we track those as well. And last but certainly not least, one of our major areas of responsibility is infrastructure inspections. We have an inspection manager and 6 inspectors, and these guys work hard day in and day out, ensuring that the assets that the city receives from the private sector are assets that have passed our testing requirements, and that the assets are acceptable such that we don't incur any maintenance issues in the short term. We're managing and overseeing right now approximately 97 private developments. That means we inspect all of the public water, sanitary sewer, we look at storm sewer, of course, roadways, sidewalks, and these guys also inspect our city projects. The 97 does not include the city projects that I mentioned just a few moments ago. But their job is critical. Any connection to our water system, any connection to our sanitary sewer system, someone has to be present to make sure that those connections are done in accordance with the guidelines. The inspectors also handle our subdivision bond process. We currently have 53 subdivision completion bonds with a value of a little bit over $6 million, which are subdivisions that are in a position of not being complete, that will eventually have assets, roadways, sidewalks, curb and gutter, things that are turned over to the city. So as you can see, as we've grown, our maintenance is going to grow as well. The inspectors record our assets. We record those items and turn those into the finance department annually. And we inspect more than 375 detention ponds annually. So just a few initiatives, and I guess being last, Megan stole a little bit of my thunder on Monday, but just a few initiatives that we plan to undertake over the next couple of years is, one is the Boykin campus, and Al mentioned it a few minutes ago. We will be working with a consulting firm to start looking at programming that space, laying out the area for the museum and for the pool and for the branch library, the things that are consistent with the Parks and Rec master plan. We'll begin to look at those spaces and have those conversations with departments that are affected to get everything that can fit on the site. Then as budget is available in the upcoming years, we'll look at how we build those facilities. The next initiative is that of LED lighting conversion. We are working with Alabama Power to come up with a systematic way to replace all of the existing lighting that is currently not LED lighting, to improve our lighting output within the city. As part of that, Alabama Power will inventory our existing lights. We hope to get some reconciliation of our bill to make sure that what we've been paying is what is actually in the field. But as we do this, we will also look at areas that still have low light. We manage lighting requests in our department. So if there's a need for a new street light, those things come to us. So as we work with the power company on the LED lighting conversion, we'll be looking at additional light where needed as well as trying to reduce our monthly energy costs. LED lights are more energy efficient. And so I'd like to realize a cost savings to the city. And last but not least, signal performance measures. One of the outcomes of the 2020 Citizen Survey, one of the high priorities was emphasis on traffic congestion and management. And so what we've done over the past several months is inventory all of our traffic signal components. What you see on the screen is a cabinet. So we have an inventory of every cabinet, every controller, every detector. So what we can do with that data, with that information, is develop a system of data to analyze things like arrivals on red or arrivals on green. We can look at that data and begin to maximize timings for a time of day or day of the week, or for special seasons. Our sister city in Tuscaloosa, they actually do timing changes for football games. Don't know that we'll be doing that this year, but this is one of the things we'll spend a good deal of time on as we begin to identify which corridors we want to start with, and enhancing our signal timings, as well as improving detection error reporting. And with that, that's all I have. Are there any questions for me?
Yes, Allison. And I hope you're in another room. I asked the question earlier about lighting in Northwest Auburn, and I just wanted to see. I hear you talking about upgrading lighting, but are you talking about in Northwest Auburn additional lighting, or just upgrading the lighting that we already have, that's already over here?
I had a little bit of a hard time hearing you. The initiative will be citywide, but we will definitely work with the power company as far as strategically coming up with the, we've talked about quadrants of them working. So we will have a systematic way to work and do the upgrades around town.
Right.
Is that what is that what you were asking?
Allison, I think she was asking about if after this changing of the LED and lighting, which is going to give more light, and we see those areas that need more light, will we be addressing those in Northwest Auburn?
Yes, we will.
Okay. Yeah, that was my. Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Allison.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Ms. Frazier? Okay, Allison, thank you very much. So council, that concludes all of our presentations. That concludes our presentation of the Biennial Budget fiscal year 21 and 22. Does anyone have any questions for us?
Hey, Jim, this is Beth. How are we addressing like wireless internet, not wireless, but internet service throughout the city proper, especially now that we have students and both at Auburn University and through Auburn City Schools and other schools in our area for distance remote learning? How are we addressing ensuring that we have that infrastructure in place, and are we budgeting for any expansion of that?
So we don't budget for that type of infrastructure. That has all been provided by the private sector through the various cable companies or wireless companies like Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint type, AT&T. So the city of Auburn has never had a investment in internet connectivity. Opelika did at one time. That proved for them to be a money-losing, extreme money-losing proposition that basically went broke, and they sold it to one of the companies that is now, or had told us that they were going to be addressing the areas in Auburn that were underserved with cable or some sort of internet connectivity. we still haven't seen that, although they tell us they are still ramping up. But in the past, we've always relied on the private sector for that, mainly because of it's a huge expense. I think Opelika lost somewhere in the neighborhood of $33 million. Now, I can add that we provide free wireless anywhere that we have a public building. So any one of our public buildings have free wireless access. Anywhere that you see, when on your phone or on your computer where it says Auburn Web and it says open, that's all free. That connects through our system, but we don't have any mechanism to really get it out beyond where our infrastructure is.
Are there, I mean, could we put, I'm just thinking out loud, but like boosters or signals, like, I know we've been approached in the past about using our water tower signals for boosting the capabilities of different service providers. But I just think it's important that we make sure that we're providing, if only through our private providers, that we are making sure that there's sufficient coverage. Because I do know a lot of families are relying upon hotspots and increased data plans that they weren't prepared to have to contend with. Anyway, I just think that should be part of our conversation moving forward.
Yeah, that would be, so if the council wished to go that route, that would be a totally different ball game altogether. As I said, that's something that councils previously have never opted to do in Auburn. As I said, it was tried in Opelika and was a miserable failure. But it's council's prerogative.
Yeah, I'm not advocating for laying fiber in neighborhoods and stuff, because I do believe that is very expensive. I'm just thinking technology is advanced, and I do know that there are some things that we could probably utilize to boost our own public outlets that could have a higher coverage. Anyway, just something worth looking into, and we can talk about that offline.
Okay. Any other questions?
Jim, could you address how we will be talking about the budget in the month of September during our council meetings?
So the budget, as we have presented it to you, will come to you at your first meeting in September 1st. For the budget hearing, it will be accompanied by a budget ordinance. That ordinance will have in it a basic summary of the budget, and it will address this document that's in front of you as the budget instrument. There are some things that I will point out to you on the budget ordinance. Councilman Griswold has asked about this. There are 4 items at the end of the ordinance that are budget related items that are not reflected within this budget document. Basically, one of those is the option for the mayor to adjust the city manager's, or to address the city manager's compensation or contract. One is to make sure that we have a city judge, and then this particular case, it would be the council reappointing Judge McLaughlin as the city judge. And there are a couple other items that I will point out to you that the ordinance has that this particular document does not address. Other than that, everything in this document is what you would be considering at your September 1st meeting. You have the option to deny unanimous consent at the first meeting, and then have the second reading at the second meeting in September. We are required by Alabama law to pass the budget before the 1st of October. And that's, Mayor, is that essentially what you wanted me to cover?
Sure. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I wanted to speak to the to the first thing you mentioned there, which is the mayor's responsibility to execute the contract with the city manager. Obviously, all of us know that Jim will be retiring soon, and we will be beginning a process of choosing a new city manager in the near future. I have said that when that time comes and we discuss moving forward with a new city manager, that will be the time that we'll discuss how the council wants to see the city manager's compensation discussed and approved into the future. So I'm still committed to doing that. You know, I would hope that I would encourage the council to go ahead and approve this as it is moving forward. I'm saying this on the record right now, and I think this is the third time I've said this, that when we get together and start moving ahead with a new manager and that process, that we'll bring this up and we'll have its own discussion regarding. Okay. If anybody's got any questions about that, please don't hesitate to let me know.
Yeah, I don't think there's any sense in us approving something just to say we're going to discuss it later. So I think we ought to make some revisions to that paragraph. Obviously, you do have the authority to sign because nobody else would be able to sign because Jim signs everything else and he can't sign for himself. But I would just say revise that so that you sign, you know, assuming concurrence of the council or something along those lines. And the other question I had was, we discussed a few things in here about moving some things around, possibly Highway 14 to Richland Connector, possibly the HPC having their own little budget. Connie asked several things about would it be possible to get some things in the budget. Is all those things going to be resolved before we see the next document, or are we to assume that we're going to approve this thing that we have in front of us?
What staff is recommending to council is what is in front of you. If council wishes to change that, it would be up to council to tell staff how they want it changed. As far as the moving up of the Richland Road, Highway 14 connector, I addressed that question. I sent the answer to the entire council. I'm not sure how effective we can be at doing that. I know that it is, and staff agrees that it's an important project. It's a very expensive project. It still has to finish being designed. It also has some questions that need to be answered as far as the development that's going to go in that area. I'm sure that even without the development, we might be able to work with the landowner to get some right of way. I don't know. There are just a lot of questions to be answered and a lot of money to be spent. And, you know, even if we tried to do it in 2021 as opposed to 2022, I don't think that everything would come together, and we still would be doing it in 2022. And we would have to move significant projects around. Maybe the Boykin project would then have to be put out even further. But again, all those are up to the council as a body to decide what they want to do. What staff is recommending is what is in this budget. As far as HPC having its own budget, we don't have any other advisory group that has that. I would not recommend that as a position for the council to start having advisory groups having their own budget, because then why not have the Parks and Rec Advisory Board have their budget and the other advisory boards that we have having their own budget? That just, again, that's something the council could do. As far as Connie asking for additional lighting, that is part of the plan, the lighting plan. Those would come to council. I do think that there will be significant opportunity at mid-biennium when revenues are reprojected and when we see what happens at the end of the COVID, assuming the ending of COVID at the end of this year, calendar year. There will be significant opportunities to modify the budget to add maybe some additional lighting, maybe add some additional projects off the CIP 6-year plan that really need to get done, but that we just don't have the money to do right now. But again, that's council's prerogative. What council wants to do, staff is recommending what's in front of you.
Yeah, I realize it's council's prerogative, but I'm trying to figure out what the timeline and how we go about doing those kinds of things. We'll do that in open discussion in the council meeting if we want to suggest revisions or what's the process? I know it would take a lot to do some of these things, and they're not easy to do, particularly that connector. I know that's a borrowing function, but if you said it's staff's or council's prerogative, so what's the process? How do we do that? Because we can't talk to one another.
I would say you bring it up right now, and if council votes that they want us to move the connector to FY 2021, staff will go to work and try to make that happen. But
well, are we allowed to take a vote during a work session? I don't think so.
You will take your vote on what we present to you at the city council meeting. As to what you want us to present to you, that's what these work sessions are for the council to take what we've given you and decide if that's what you want us to do or how you want us to change it around. So at these work sessions, you discuss how you want it changed.
Jim, that project was going to be impacted by that potential development, correct? That residential development that we just approved the rezoning. Wasn't there some kind of connection between the building of this connector road and that development?
Part of the plan was that the developer was going to pay for that portion of the connector. That is what we would have required of them in a development agreement, that the little portion of the road that comes through that development would be, we would ask the developer to pay for that. And yes, it was kind of, we don't know where that development is going now. We have not seen anything come back to us as to whether they're going to continue or they're not. But we had initially wanted to align this connector with Webster Road. That proved to be impossible after a lot of work, a lot of meetings with the property owner who would not give us the right of way to go through the property. That particular property was in the county, so we could not even come to you to recommend condemnation because it's in the county. So the alternate was the connection through this property that was in the city and was being considered for redevelopment. So that would be where we would still try to put the connector, but without the redevelopment, we'd probably have to shoulder all of the costs there on that.
So the cost that you've showed us, does that include, is that all of it? Is that a projection of doing it all ourselves, or is that a projection of the development potentially taking that piece of it closest to 14?
I think that, Megan, you want to go ahead and address that?
Yeah, they're still working through an updated traffic study and master plan, but no official submittal. We're negotiating with them about that segment of road. They would have to build a much smaller road than the city would want through the property. So part of that negotiation is for right of way, and they will contribute toward a portion of the construction of the road through their property. And that's where we're still in talks with the development agreement to speak to that. The funding for that road is the consideration. The city engineer was taking a hybridized consideration of what portion of the road that they would be paying for through the property. So we would have that budget number out there was as realistic as staff could provide with the information we had at the time we were formulating the budget in the last month.
Yeah, I realize that we're talking about a $10 million project from all, to do the whole thing. What we talked about a meeting or two ago about the development in that area if we could get that southern part done, then we'd have a construction entrance, or at least the beginning of a construction entrance, which would help us out long term in terms of the development that we spoke of the other day. Anyway, I would certainly advocate acceleration of at least the southern portion. I would love to see the whole thing accelerated, but since we have to do a borrowing, and I think that's a long-term project for that amount of space or that linear footage, whatever it is. But if we could find a way to accelerate that, at least get it started, it would be very helpful. And I'll probably not get any support on this as usual, but that's where I'm coming from.
Megan, Jim, building a road like that, I think that was a mile. Is that
it's about a mile? Yes.
What's the reality of? Are those normally done all at once? What's the reality of doing that in sections?
On this particular road, because it is going through undeveloped property, we would want, for the sake of the efficiency of time and also for the sake of saving money, build it all at one time. We don't have to do it in sections because there's not residential development around it. So we could plan it to build it all at one time. Now, even saying that, it would take about a year to build it, we believe. And that's a pretty aggressive timeline, even at a year to build it. Another issue for us when we're considering if this council moved it to 2021 is the borrowing. I'm not sure that it would be advisable to go to the market right now. I'm not sure that we could maintain our bond rating that we have, given the uncertainty with what's happening with everything right now with the economy. It's not something that we want to just put on the back burner either. I mean, Councilman Griswold is correct. It's an important project. It's just one of those hard decisions to make, given not only the amount of money that it is, but where it falls in the borrowing and what other projects we have that that we want to move forward with. So it is difficult. And I think if there's any way that as we see as the economy improves and as our revenues improve and as the market is at a point where we feel that we can enter it, get a good interest rate and not jeopardize our rating, then yes, I think that's something to consider. So maybe at mid-biennium, it might be a good time to reevaluate where we are with that project, and if it's possible to move it forward, do so. There's no question that there is a need to connect Richland Road with Highway 14.
And certainly by mid-biennium, we'll know more about that development, obviously. Don't you think? I mean,
I do.
Megan, don't you think that we'll know about that development, whether it's going to proceed or not?
I do.
Okay. All right. Well, I agree with Kelly. I represented Ward 2 for 6 years, and that's a log jam of people out there. And it would be, I would promote it to be an important project for our community. There's no question about it. But I respect where you're coming from, and certainly bond rating and being responsible financially is one of our most important responsibilities as a council. So something for us to consider, but I certainly promote its idea of being a very important project.
And Jim, with regard to the HPC, Forrest stated that if there was a specific project that the HPC could take that to planning and determine if there were appropriate funds to be able to have that accomplished, correct?
That is correct. And those projects, let's say that they came up with a project that was $30, $50, $100,000. That type of thing would always come back to council for your approval. It isn't that they can just go to planning and ask for money. It would always have to come back to council, and it would have to be a council initiative. I think that would be the best way to handle something like that, just like you said.
And that's the process that was followed with the lighting plan in North College Street Historic District. I was the first staff member that was assigned to that group. There was some travel and training that went on, and the city always supported that on an as needed basis when the request was made from the HPC.
Thank you.
Well, I guess then I'll just jump on the bandwagon and we'll just rubber stamp this thing and move on down the road then. Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All righty, Mayor, I think we're finished.
Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for everybody's time. It's about 5 hours on working on the budget this week, and appreciate everybody's time. Jim, if anybody has questions over the next 48 hours, I'm guessing we will have our normal work session, pre-council work session on Friday.
Yes, and also if you have any questions between now and the time that we address the budget in the budget hearing, in the council meeting, send me those questions and we will answer them.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Wait a minute, I have one more follow-up. I'm sorry, real quick. Jim answered all the questions I sent earlier about the Chamber of Commerce, and I think they do a good job. I'm happy funding them with what they've asked for, but I think we ought to put some caveats on that. I don't believe that we should be paying any organization, no matter who they are, and then turn around and lobby us for a particular position. And when they come to us with a resolution from the hundreds of businesses they represent, many of whom have never even seen the resolution, I think they're overstepping, and they either ought to take our money and be happy with it or not take our money and then lobby us. That's my opinion.
For clarification, Kelly, what have they come to the council with to lobby us on?
The previous council, certainly they had resolutions on the height issue. Was the most egregious thing I witnessed.
Jim, could you explain their contract and what services they provide for the city? Or could you get that information out to us maybe sometime?
Yeah.
They work with IDB.
He's done that. He's done that. And I have no issue with what they provide for us. I think they provide us a good service. That's fine. But I don't think they ought to be taking our money and then turning around and lobbying for a particular position. None of our other recipients of outside funding that I'm aware of turn around and then come back and lobby us for something. They come in and they make their request and what they're going to use the money for, and that's fine. And we approve or disapprove that. But then we don't expect them to come back at a later point and lobby a particular position that the city of Auburn is debating on. If anybody else wants to weigh in on this, I'd sure like to support. But
yeah. Does anybody else in the council have an opinion about this?
I totally agree with you, Kelly. Totally agree with you.
Mr. Buston, has this been in place for a number of years? I think it predated my appearance on the council.
I think it has. I don't know how far back it's gone, but it's gone back more than 10 years probably.
Okay.
And Kelly, I also want you to know I agree with that too.
I guess I'm trying to have a correlation here of what you're trying to say. On one hand, you say you're finally giving them the money, but then on the other hand, you're like, come to the council and give us your opinion on anything, because that's not acceptable. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that they are provided money to provide a specific service, and that's fine. They ought to be doing that service because that's what we're paying them for. But I don't believe they ought to be coming in and presenting specific resolutions. They come in and they read these nice long resolutions. I just don't think that they ought to be in the role of lobbying the council. Anybody that receives money from us ought to be happy they're getting the money, and we ought to be happy that we're paying them and getting the service that we're paying for. And other than that, I don't believe they have a role in front of the council.
Look, to be clear, let me understand, anybody that receives a contract with the city has no right to redress any grievances with the city or provide any input?
I'm not talking about grievances. If they have grievances, they can take it up with a lawyer.
No. I'm talking about what you've said. You're saying anybody that has a contract with the city shouldn't be able to have any input with the way the city runs or anybody associated with the organization?
I don't believe they ought to be lobbying on behalf of a particular position.
You're using a particular word. That's a particular word, lobbying. There's a difference. Are they allowed to express their opinion? Or lobbying is different than expressing an opinion.
Well, you can parse words however you like, but when they get up in front of us and express their opinion, as you said, to vote a certain way, then I think they've exceeded their role.
I don't think we can suppress First Amendment rights of free speech and the ability to talk to your government based on contractual relationships. But I mean, if that's what you want to do, Kelly, go for it, buddy.
Well, you know, like I say, you can analyze it and parse it every way you like, but I don't believe that folks that we're paying for services ought to be up in front of us lobbying for a position. If they want to lobby individually, that's fine. I'm not trying to suppress anything. Somebody wants to come up and talk, but that's my opinion.
Well, how is that different than, we've been talking about the Historic Preservation Committee, and I know they're not a contracted partner, but they receive funds from the city or the bike community, the bike committee. Tourism Bureau is certainly a partner. You know, I mean, I think that's just part of working together. I don't think an organization should remain silent if they have a particular opinion about something that completely affects what they're doing.
And if I remember correctly, there was a call, you put out a call, Kelly, for information from the chamber on their opinion, the business community. So I'm sure our audience, our citizens are getting a mixed message here.
Well, once again, disagree with you. I thought it was important that the business community speak up on that particular issue, and they hadn't. They sat back on their, you know, hadn't told us anything. So I asked if we had any input from the business community, and apparently they're the ones that would be able to provide that. If we ask for information from them, that's fine. We are paying them after all. So I don't think that's an issue. You know, if we're paying them to respond and do things for us, then that's fine.
Jim, in the course of municipal governments, are you aware of these kind of relationships, contractual relationships, do they exist in other places, in other forms?
Yes. I mean, and we have a lot of relationships. Just look at the Humane Center, look at the food bank. I mean, we have those groups coming to us to solicit particular support for certain laws that help them, for certain council action that would help them. But again, this is not a staff issue.
No, I was just asking for clarification based on what you understand, how this works in other places.
And I was told that that this particular agreement with the chamber has been in effect for over 25 years.
Okay. Beth, your name just popped up. I didn't know if you were about to say something.
My mama taught me if I don't have something nice to say to keep my mouth shut. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
You know, the Chamber of Commerce represents our business community. Our business community is the primary resource that provides the sales taxes that we utilize to pay for the projects that we've been discussing for the last 6 hours on 2 consecutive days. If they show up to us once in a while and have something that they would like to promote on behalf of their members, I don't feel extra pressure. I don't think it's awkward. To me, it's not a problem, but that's just me. What they do, I find a lot of value in, and I'm appreciative of.
All right, Mayor, are we done?
Anybody else?
Mayor,
Okay.
I might want to say one thing. I want to congratulate Councilperson Dawson. I believe today is his either 35th wedding anniversary. I I told him that we wouldn't be too long, but we've kind of gone longer than I told him we would be.
33 years today, Jim, and y'all may have just messed me up on it. Man, I'll make 34.
Congratulations, Tommy. God bless her.
You're right.
Congratulations, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. We all good? All right. Any questions to Jim? He'll get them back to us, and we'll see everybody at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you.